Hello, everyone, and inside the latest Locked On Canadiens, we have contract news and two crucial defenseman player reviews.
You're Locked On Canadiens, your daily podcast on the Montreal Canadiens, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 1091 of Locked On Canadiens. We are, of course, your daily Montreal Canadiens podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where you get your team every single day of the week, wherever you get your daily podcast, Google, Apple, Spotify, or if you're watching on youtube.com. I am your host. Once again, I am Scott Matla. My co-host is, of course, on vacation, enjoying all the fun parts of where she is on that. She will be back next week as we get ready for the NHL draft. We are 2 weeks away, or 12 days officially at the time that I'm recording this. Cannot wait for that. We have so much cooked up for you. Today's episode is also brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more, because right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. And you might be wondering, Scott, what are we talking about today? If you are on YouTube, you can see the show description on the other side of the screen here. I've been doing this 5 years and I still point in the wrong direction with my hands because I am just that kind of person. In the intro, we have contract news, and we'll get to that in 1 second. We've got two player reviews, one for Justin Barron and one for Arber Xhekaj today. And we're going to talk maybe what does an extension for Arber Xhekaj look like towards the end of the show. But we want to jump right into the biggest news. I guess the biggest news, as you can call it at this point in the offseason, is that on June 15th, Saturday morning, the Montreal Canadiens signed Oliver Kapanen to a 3-year entry-level deal. He was selected 64th overall in 2021. And he has been playing in Liga in Finland for the past 3 years with Kalpa in there. And he's been a prospect on the rise in the Canadiens organization, but not in a way that is it's been hard to keep track of him because, he was drafted and coming in at a time when players like Joshua Waugh were starting to dominate. Cole Caulfield was coming off his college year, and and so many defensemen in this organization, and they are he kind of fell behind the scenes there a little bit. His uncle is former NHLer Sammy Kapanen. His cousin is way to go, Cappy, you effing moron, Kasperi Kapanen. This was, I think, a year that really kind of brought Oliver Kapanen into the spotlight. He's been playing in Liga for the past 3 years as the majority of his season, which is a pretty impressive feat. He played 16 games in Liga in 21-22, played with Karpat for a little bit in Liga, went down to the Mestis League with another team for a little bit. He's played on a couple teams, but he's stuck with Kalpa the last 2 years. Last year in their lineup, putting up 27 points, 12 goals, 15 assists in 55 games, 1 assist in 7 playoff games. This year, in 51 games, 34 points, was part of their World Championship team where he put up another 6 goals, which is a pretty damned impressive feat there. The biggest thing for him this year that has really kind of, I think, brought all eyes back to Oliver Kapanen is in 13 playoff games for Kalpa, put up 14 points. He was their team's leading scorer in that regard and rose all the way up to be their first line center during that run. He really kind of hit that next level. We talked to Habs Xhekaj about this a little bit, in that there's a lot of instincts there, a lot of good in all the zones there that he uses to be responsible defensively and make plays happen. This is a quote from the 2021 Elite Prospects Guide. Kapanen's game is all about his instincts in the offensive zone, combined with lethal finishing skills from close and mid-range, recognizes space well, takes advantage of the slightest mistakes by opposing defenses, has some gravitational elements as a playmaker, being able to draw on pressure before dishing the puck to an open teammate. He's not going to be the flashiest of players in here. And that is, perfectly all right. He doesn't have to be a superstar forward, to be quite honest, but he is someone that makes your team better overall. I kind of look at how he fit into Kalpa's lineup and where he's been at this year. And I know people are going to ask, well, what about other people drafted around him? He and Riley Kidney were picked back-to-back at the end of the first round or second round in the 2021 draft. The next forward in there that has played more than a handful of NHL games, Ryan Winterton has played 9 as a forward. Jackson Blake has played 1. He just came out of college. James Malatesta has played 11. Joshua Waugh has played 23. So for those looking, they should have drafted this guy or this guy instead. I think they've done all right at this point. I'm kind of looking at, the names that before them that there are some names in there that I like that maybe I would have liked the Canadiens to take. I'm still not sure where Sasha Pastajov is going to end up overall. He's a player I like a whole bunch. He's just finishing up his first full professional season, and the Ducks are what they are. So, that's hard to say. And the big question is everyone's like, okay, he's 20 years old, which is impressive because it feels like he's been around for a lot longer than 3 years. It feels like he's been in this organization for a long, long time, and that he should be 22, 23. He's just 20 years old, and he managed to, in the playoffs, when the pressure is on the highest for Kalpa, raise his level to lead that team as far as he could, along with the other players there in the playoffs, which is really impressive. And everyone's going to say, well, where's he going to play next year? There's a clause in his contract negotiated because he signed with Timra prior to the World Championships this year when the rumors of Kapanen's potential entry-level contract were coming up. And that the clause in his contract says he's going to go over to Montreal for camp in September. The 18th of September is, I believe, when Canadiens are opening camp, based on the information Patrick Bexell has gotten and that his team has put out in there. And if he doesn't make the NHL roster, he will return to Team according to the clause in the contract. That means, and I think this needs to be bear stating, he will not be going to the AHL at any point this year. Maybe after his season ends, but as of right now, Oliver Kapanen will be either playing for the Montreal Canadiens, which would be a huge boost, would be an incredible jump for him to make that, or he's going to the SHL where he will play with Timra, the team that he just signed his contract with. And I'm actually kind of looking at the team he's going to be playing on. Some of the names that are on there, he'll be playing with Philip Hollander, former San Jose Sharks prospect Jonathan Dahlin, Magnus Piarvi, obviously Oliver Kapanen is on there. And it's going to be interesting to see where he fits in this. Because I do admittedly selfishly think he would be a very good AHL player for the Rocket this year. But the Canadiens believe enough in where he has been at in terms of his development that they don't need to change too many things in this. And I actually kind of like this idea that we're going to give him an opportunity to make the team. Maybe he comes in and he starts as your 4th line center or your 3rd line center, depending on where that roster shakes out on things. And maybe he doesn't. Maybe he's not ready for the NHL yet, but he can continue to hone his craft in Europe. He's done very well playing in Liga, which is not an easy, simple league to play in. And he's going to the SHL next year, where the competition is just as fierce. It's very likely better than what you're going to face in the AHL. And I know that there are statistics that show, hey, the competition is at this level in this league and this level in this league. That's all well and good. I think he's going to get more of the ice time that he needs and more of that development training as a 21-year-old, because he turns 21 at the end of July in Sweden this year, and then come back next year and be ready to fully make that jump. I think he could make the jump to the AHL this year, but the Canadiens are doing the right thing here. They're going to give him the opportunity. He's going to get to camp. He's going to get to meet some of the other prospects and players. Someone did ask Patrick, hey, what does this mean for his season in Europe? Because their season starts much earlier than the NHL season does. He did have national service Finland. And Patrick, you can DM me or yell at me on Twitter if this is incorrect. Finland has mandatory national service for the military that he did last year and then came into the season, had a little bit of a slow start, and then started going. He will likely miss a chunk of games for camp and preseason games until they decide what they want to do with him, and then come back. So by the end of September, potentially he should be back in the lineup in Sweden. Or, maybe he makes the team and surprises everybody. I cannot see the future. If I did, I wouldn't be hosting a podcast, unfortunately. I would be making all the money in the world other ways. But this is one of those things that was on Kent Hughes' to-do list, and he managed to get that checked off. Coming up next is really the NHL draft for that. We are 12 days away from that, 11 at the time when you're finally listening to this. on the 20th. I'm very excited for that, but this is one less potential contract thing to be worrying about right now. Jared Davidson was also signed earlier in the year, and we're going to keep an eye out for anything else coming along down there. But we got to shift gears a little bit. We're going to go into more player reviews. We have defensemen that can cause a split in the fan base and how they analyze these players, and we're going to get into those coming up next. But first, today's show is also brought to you by the folks at Policy Genius, and it is so hard to find peace of mind in the world today, even more so when you are thinking about life insurance, because everything in the world is unpredictable, and you want to make sure your family is set should anything ever happen. And with Policy Genius, you can find life insurance policies that start at just $292 per year for $1 million worth of coverage. And some options are 100% online and let you avoid unnecessary medical exams. Their agents make things so convenient and save you time because they will help you compare options from all of America's top insurers in just a few short clicks. And their agents will walk you through the process step by step. So get peace of mind by finding the right life insurance with Policy Genius. Head to policygenius.com or click the link in the description to get your free life insurance quote and see how much you can save. That's policygenius.com. We are back here at Locked On Canadiens, and we're diving into player reviews. And this is one that I wasn't super psyched to do, not because it's the player, it's just that it is so hard to get a read on who this player is. And I like Justin Barron as a player, but he is also an incredibly frustrating player sometimes, in that you see brief glimpses of, yes, this is exactly what I want from a guy who's going to be, let's say, a 4 or 5 defenseman on your team. And then other times it is just, oh my God, what are you doing now? I don't understand. Where did all this positive, progress go? Last year, so he was traded from Colorado to Montreal in the Arber Xhekaj trade, which clouds this whole trade and player a lot because Arber Xhekaj was obviously a very popular player. I loved, Lecky just as much as everybody else did. And then he went on to win a Stanley Cup. That is very hard, I think, for for fans to kind of look at and objectively analyze this a little bit. In the 5 games after he was acquired, put up 1 goal, 1 assist in those 5 games. All well and good. The second year, first full year in the Canadiens organization, in 25 AHL games with the Laval Rocket, 7 goals, 9 assists, 16 points, -3. Only 6 penalty minutes. A very good player. And he got a lot of help from, at the time, it was Nicolas Baudin, and running their power play unit as well and really making things happen. Really looked like he was taking a step forward. And with the Canadiens in 39 games, 4 goals, 11 assists, 15 points, 20 penalty minutes, -2. On a bad team, as a guy adjusting to a new system, new teammates and everything like that, solid. This year with Laval, 11 points in 32 games, 10 penalty minutes, -4. And with the Canadiens in 48 games, 7 goals, 6 assists, 16 penalty minutes, -3. Everything this year was so hard to analyze with Justin Barron. And I think that he, again, is a very talented player, a good defenseman. And just trying to analyze everything about him, because there are games in the AHL where I'm like, I do not notice you. I do not know what you are doing. I do not see the same impact on this game that I saw in previous years. And I'm bringing up Natural Stat Trick in the background here because I want to kind of look at how he compared to other defensemen this year, which I think is a key thing because the Canadiens used a lot of them this year. Sort by time on ice here, and let's go. So Justin Barron played 48 games. This is all counting stats, which is not totally what I wanted. Let's go with his on ice stuff here. This is a guy who is very much up against it this year. Not because I think he's a bad player or anything like that. It's that I think he is in a very tough spot to really make an impact because you have a guy like Mike Matheson coming off a career year. You have a guy like Lane Hutson coming into this organization. You have other players coming back healthy. And for Justin Barron, he's just kind of middle of the road. His expected goals for on the season were 32.5 versus 38.2 for expected goals against, an expected goals for percentage of 46%. He's also in a spot where he's not getting the power play time that he probably needs to continue to develop that part of his game. Mike Matheson's obviously running power play 1, then Lane Hutson at the very end of the year was power play 2. And maybe Barron got a little bit of time there at, when Matheson got off the change, they put the second power play unit out. The issue is the second power play unit was often not very good and potentially got scored on a lot. A lot of neutral zone starts, more defensive zone starts than offensive zone starts. And that's just kind of part of it. His PDO was below the break-even line. If 1.00 across the board is an even PDO, he was just below that. One of two players, Mike Matheson, was also just below that. Non-ice save percentage of 902, 8.89 on. It's the biggest thing with Justin Barron is that there are times that he looks incredible. I go to the Detroit games and I watch him catch a cross zone feed, drop it, and then roof the shot. And I go, that's hand-eye coordination. That's being cognizant of your surroundings. You found a gap to exploit and you went and attacked that. Do more of that. And then there are times in his own end where I see him behind the net and he's got the puck and he's looking this way and he's not looking this way. And I can see the forechecking forward coming in and he fires it towards the opposing forechecker. Or he makes a pass that I can tell is going to get picked off. It's like watching a car crash in slow motion sometimes. Is that admittedly, yes, I have the benefit of I am looking at a camera angle that is down, looking at the ice. I can see more than he can, and I'm not feeling that pressure. I'm not going to say that I would make a better decision in that spot. I am not built that differently at all in that regard. It was simple little learning things. And the Rocket this year, when he was down there with the team, were struggling to kind of get going. He was with the Canadiens and then went down with the Rocket. And then he went down. He was there when you had Arber Xhekaj down there playing with Logan Mailloux. You had Justin Barron paired up with, I believe it was Toby Paquette-Bisson or William Trudeau. And everything kind of stabilized and came together there, where the defensive game of getting the puck out and everything was getting better, even if the points weren't there. And for me, I look at Justin Barron and go, what are you going to be this year now? As I'm going through this, he got sent down to the AHL at the end of the season because he was part of that group there. He is an RFA right now. He is without a contract. That is arguably the next thing on Kent Hughes' list of things to do. He is up for a contract. And what kind of extension are you going to give to a Justin Barron type player? Do you think that, hey, we see enough that we can go 3-4 years and keep it low, keep the price low? Let's say 1.1 per, which I don't think is asking too much there. But you also have to look at, okay, next year in the AHL alone, these are names that are signed or that are outside the NHL roster right now at the end of the season. David Reinbacher, Adam Engstrom, Logan Mailloux, Jayden Struble, William Trudeau, Justin Barron, Matthias Norlinder, Brady Keeper. I don't think Brady Keeper's coming back. He's a UFO. Norlinder and Barron are both RFAs. And then at the NHL level, not counting anyone who was injured, Mike Matheson, David Savard, Jordan Harris, Lane Hutson, Caden Gooley, Jonathan Kovacevic, and Arber Xhekaj. There's already 6 defensemen on the NHL roster, and we're assuming that Lane Hutson will make this team. I think that's a pretty fair assumption at this point, is that we think he's going to make this team. The question is now, does Justin Barron beat out any of those other guys? Jonathan Kovacevic is like your ideal 5, 6, 7th defenseman. You plug him, you play him, you don't worry about it. Points aren't as much of a concern with him. Caden Gooley is being groomed as being a top pairing defenseman. Jordan Harris is one of their plug-and-play everyday guys. Arber Xhekaj, who we will talk about in the next segment. David Savard is the respected vet. May or may not be there. We don't really know. Mike Matheson is the best defenseman on the team. I know that Lane Hutson is good. I'm not going to be accepting arguments on that. But then I look at the AHL level here for all these guys who are signed. There are 5 players signed for next year, with both Barron and Norlinder needing RFA contracts. You have Trudeau, you have Struble, you have Mailloux, you have Engstrom, you have Reinbacher. And Jayden Struble arguably made Justin Barron a little bit obsolete this year with how well he played in the AHL. And then he went up and stuck in the NHL forever until the end of the year when they sent him down to try and get the Rocket into the playoffs. I think this is the make or break year for him. I think they might give him like a 1-year show me RFA contract worth, what, something with maybe a little bit of bonus, or it's like 2 years and they go, show me what you got. And you either sink or swim because there's more defensemen coming too. You've got Bogdan Konyoshkov. You got whoever they pick this year in the draft. You've got all these guys in the AHL like Reinbacher and Engstrom and Mailloux who are knocking on the door to take that next step. Plus, if they sign or trade for anybody else, we don't know. We know the Canadiens love to do that kind of stuff. So I'm going to give Justin Barron a B- for a season. It wasn't bad. It's just I was hoping for that bigger next step going into next year. Now we're going to get into the fun one. Up next, we're going to take a look at Arber Xhekaj's, again, injury-shortened season and what he can do to earn that hefty extension so many think he deserves, and that's coming up next. But as I said off the top of the show, today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Summertime is right around the corner. It's going to be 95 here in Buffalo all week. Sweating means time for a cold, refreshing lemonade, baseball, the NBA Finals, and more. And you can bet it all on FanDuel because right now, new customers are getting $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $200 you can use to bet on everything from the Finals MVP to who's going to hit one out of the park. Just visit FanDuel.com/locked-on and add a big win to your summer bucket list. Truly, they have everything. Are the Red Sox going to stay at 500? Is England finally going to bring the Euro trophy home? They're not. All at FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. We are back here at Locked On Canadiens, and we keep saying we, even though it is I, and I just said it in that sentence as well. I am, of course, Scott Matla. I am one of your hosts. My co-host is on vacation. We're diving into, I don't want to say the deep end, but a little bit of the deep end here, because this is where fans are going to be split on things. Arber Xhekaj, 23-year-old undrafted free agent signed with the Canadiens, is finishing up his entry-level contract. And he is an RFA as of right now. He does not have a contract for this season. The hardest part about Arber Xhekaj is that he, in back-to-back years, has had season-ending shoulder surgery on both shoulders now. And one part of that is this year is that he said, I tried to hide it from the coach, from the staff, and play through it, and it ended up being a problem. Which, one, don't do that. Just don't do that. You are too young, and this team thinks so much of you that you cannot do that. The previous one in 2022-2023 was because he punched Vincent Desharnais so hard he literally just popped his shoulder out, needed all the surgery that went along with that. Arber Xhekaj is an interesting case because there are fans that value the intangible parts of his game and the physical parts of his game more so than I think what are things that actually stand out about it. And this is not to say that I don't love those intangible and physical scary parts of his game. I'm going down the list of penalty minutes in some of these seasons. His last GOJHL season in Ontario, 110 penalty minutes in 46 games, 39 and 59. A light year, 88 in 51. No games in the COVID season, Costco. 18 games with Kitchener, 54 penalty minutes, 33 with Hamilton, 84 penalty minutes, and then another 50 and 18 playoff games. His first year with the Canadiens in 51 games, 101 penalty minutes. The Canadiens this year, 81 and 44, and with the Rocket, 34 and 17. If there's a dude who has never seen a penalty he didn't like, it's Arber Xhekaj. And some of these are retaliation penalties, and some of these are fighting majors, etc. To not slander him too much. And some of them are the officials looked at him this year and didn't give him the benefit of the doubt on anything, absolutely nothing, because they know he's this big tough kid. He's not some rookie. They're giving him nothing. And I've said this about a lot of Canadian players this year is that, wow, they're calling everything on you guys and nothing on everything, but that's besides the point. This was a tough year for Xhekaj, who, made the team out of camp. didn't really hit his stride, and then went down to the AHL on assignment coming off his injury at the beginning of the year. He spent some time injured there, and they sent him down to the AHL to just work on some things. He played a couple of games back, and they're like, nope, we're going to send you down there. We thought maybe it's a conditioning stint. He's going to play like a week, maybe 2 weeks worth of games, like 6 total games, and we'll see him back. And he stayed in the AHL. And ironically, not ironically, that's the wrong word for that. My apologies, that he was paired up with Logan Mailloux, someone that they were hoping to get more out of on the defensive side of the puck and learn this season on that. And they put Mailloux and Xhekaj together on the Rocket. And then obviously Justin Barron bounced down a lineup spot and everything. And you know what? The Rocket suddenly became both an offensive powerhouse and defensively were just the worst kind of team to play against. They did not care who you were or what you did or, how prominent you were. Mailloux and Xhekaj had no problem putting hands on an opposing player, got too close, roughed them up. Came back up to the NHL, and he showed some of that patience from running the second power play unit, running a power play unit in Laval, playing a lot of minutes, that there was more composure to his game. And that was the biggest next step you wanted to see here. We saw a guy that was raw. Arber Xhekaj is still very rough around the edges in a lot of areas, but there's a lot of potential there. He skates so well for a dude who is 6'4", 240 pounds. One of the nastiest dudes in the league. He will throw hands with anybody. We know this. He's a big, tough guy. And he's developing that defensive side of the game. He is becoming hard to play against. And you know what? That's fantastic. It's continuing to round out that game. Can you be that guy who can eat some of those minutes to free up a Hudson and Matheson type of pairing and make things happen here? And part of that is discipline. Staying out of the box, being more aware of where your stick is, not getting suckered into things. Xhekaj, and I mean this as politely as possible, his temper is not what you would call a long fuse. And I love watching him chuck the gloves off in defense of a teammate. But now he's in a contract. He is up for a contract at the end of this season. If I'm reading everything. No, he's RFA right now, actually. All right, then. So what does he need with this is, what does an extension for him look like? Because some people sign him 7 years, 4.5 per, 5.5 per, and, really get all that value before it goes up down the line. And my thought with that is, I don't think I'm ready to commit $4.5 million per year to a guy like Arber Xhekaj, whose NHL career high in points is 13. Who is not like the old school shutdown kind of guy like Nicholas Chalmerson used to be, or Marc-Edouard Vlasic used to be. This is a guy that I don't mind giving 3 or 4 years to and keeping the money down on that. Keep that progression going, because if you're not going to show that progression in Montreal, there are teams out there who have been calling Ken Hughes and knocking on his door. Ken, what do you want for Arber Xhekaj? And him saying no. This team believes in Arber Xhekaj. I believe in Arber Xhekaj. He's a phenomenal story. He's someone that will get there. And Mark Bergevin had a lot of bad quotes, but he had some good quotes and stuff too. There are players that will get you to the playoffs, and there are players that will get you through the playoffs. And I look at Arber Xhekaj and I go, that dude in the playoffs, when they are calling nothing, is going to be worth his weight in gold. Look at the Florida Panthers last year with Radko Gudas, and look at them this year. They are rough, maybe a little on the edge, over the edge in some places. Don't worry, Bruins fans. I know. But he's a dude that gets you through the playoffs. All those little, shot to the rib, a little shove, a little stink face in there. Arber Xhekaj is worth his weight in gold for that. Guys like Brendan Gallagher who battle for everything and drive opposing teams nuts. Do you want to play 7 games against Arber Xhekaj when they're barely calling penalties? And for me, that extension for Arber Xhekaj, I think, is 3 to 4 years. And if they say, hey, we see the value in this guy, and they go 2, 2.5, maybe 3, because the cap has risen a little bit from there, I'm okay with that. But they need to, if they want to go bigger money, which I think might be unwise at this point, this is a team that I really want to see move out other contracts before they fully ink him. If they're going to go big money, you're moving a deal out. whether that be Savard or Dvorak or Anderson or whatever the hell. Those have got to move out first. But Xhekaj going from, let me see what he was making last year too, making $8.8 million or $8.3 million. Jesus. Wow. I am so bad at reading this. $828,000 a season with some signing bonus sprinkled in there. I think that the likely jump for that is up to over $1 million, and keep that going on there. For his season, I'm going to give him a B in the middle there. I think that he had a good season. If he continued that upward trend and didn't get injured, I would have been really interested to see where he would have ended up at the end of the year. Coming out of the AHL, those 17 games in the AHL did wonders for him. That was absolutely a huge, huge thing for him. That was a huge confidence boost and really turned him into the guy that he needed to be. However, we need that next step there. As always, you can rate these players too. Tweet us at @LO_Canadiens, LockedOnCanadiens@gmail.com as well. We do want to hear from you. We love hearing from you as long as you're not rude. Me at Scott Matla on Twitter. Follow us wherever you get your daily podcasts, Google, Apple, Spotify, or here on YouTube.com. I will be back tomorrow. We're probably going to have more player reviews. We're going to keep an eye out for news. I'm getting ready. I'm going to start lining up some guests here. Maybe some friends come on. We're going to discuss, hey, we got the draft in 11 days. As always, thank you so much for tuning in, and we will see you all next time.